Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the GM's chair. It is episode 3. Holy smokes. And you know what? Today we have 3 topics for you on episode 3 because I believe in all the numbers aligning. And guess who I'm with? I'm with my co-host, none other than Reid himself. Reid, how are you doing today?
Absolutely wonderful. A little warm, but
Hey,
waiting for hockey season to come around.
we have to have the warm time, but you know what? In order for me to keep cool, I've got to represent. I'm wearing a Capitals jersey today. I know you guys have seen me in some Oilers gear, and guys, don't hesitate to ask questions, and don't fear. I promise you, Reid is wearing something Columbus. Am I right, Reid? There it is. There it is. The shirt. It is a
Every day.
Columbus shirt. So today we're gonna have a very exciting episode. We're gonna be talking about the awards finalists. We're gonna give our projections on who we think are going to win the awards for this upcoming season. Again, this is all speculation on our part and all opinion, so there's no guarantee that any of these guys are going to be chosen. So if we hit it on the button, great. If we don't, oh well. If you guys have any suggestions or predictions for yourselves, feel free to drop it in the comments. Then we're going to go over some breakout players that we're going to expect to have better seasons coming up in this next season. Some of them might have had a down season, so we're going to kind of evaluate and gauge which player is going to be good this season. And then we're going to finish off with the Four Nations Cup, and we're going to look at the initial rosters that were released by the 4 different teams. And there are quite a few surprises, and there are going to be quite a few debates coming about who's going to win that cup. So, before we get started, if you haven't grabbed a drink, if you haven't grabbed something to eat, what are you doing? Go get it, sit down, relax. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and be sure to hit that follow button so you can get all notifications on anything and everything NHL here on the GM's chair. So, without further ado, we're going to get into the awards finalists that we're going to project for next season. We'll start off with the most noted award is the Art Ross Trophy Award. The Art Ross Trophy Award is given to the players who have essentially the top points. They lead all of the team or all of the players in the end of the regular season with the most amount of points. So for those of you who got a chance to watch episode number 2, which you haven't, I will link it in the description. Reid and I both give our projections about where players will end up with goals, assists, all that. So we should be able to reason out who's going to get some of these awards. But the Art Ross Trophy is given to the person who has the most points at the end of the season. Reid, who is your guess to be the Art Ross Trophy winner next year?
I can't quite remember who I said in episode 2, but I think I'm gonna have to go back with uh McDavid. I think that he's going to have another stellar season.
I think that's a great unanimous pick on your part and my part because I am also going to pick Connor McDavid. So, yes, I can wear a different jersey, but I know my home team, and I'm going to stick with my guns on this one. Connor McDavid has an ample supply of talent now that surrounds him. Not that he didn't have it before, but now he has 2 separate wings. So, him and Draisaitl could alternate on either one, first or second line. Draisaitl can even go up there with Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid has Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman, and Evander Kane if he really wanted. There's a whole plethora of opportunities for Connor McDavid to get as many assists. He might even hit 100 assists and maybe even 50 goals this next season. So I can totally agree with you that Connor McDavid is going to be the Art Ross Trophy Memorial winner. The next
A
one I'm going to
plethora of people to feed him, plenty of people to feed. It's almost like it's destined for him.
exactly. And so even though we're going to pick him at kind of a unanimous decision, who do you think would come in second? Maybe a runner up for the Art
I'm gonna go
Ross.
with my gut. I'm gonna say probably Artemi Panarin, just because I really like how he is, and he seems very consistent over the years. It's kind of a back and forth with me. I'm not sure if it's gonna be Artemi Panarin or Nikita Kucherov, but I'm probably gonna stick with Panarin on the backup.
I think so with Nikita Kucherov, he might be fourth in scoring total points. Mainly
Yeah, I
because
can see it.
mainly because like I don't think people realize the significance of the loss that Tampa suffered. Not only losing Stamkos, but losing Sergachev as well. So they
Yeah,
lost some 2 pretty big pieces. And Nikita Kucherov, with all due respect, is a great player. I think he's definitely going to be at the top of the points board for sure by the end of the season. But what are your thoughts on? I know you love Artemi Panarin. Okay, I know it. I get it. But what are your thoughts on potentially Nathan McKinnon or even David Pastrnak potentially being runner up or second runner up.
I don't. If I'm gonna have to give a different runner-up other than Artemi Panarin, I don't think it's gonna be either of them, honestly.
Okay.
If I'm gonna go for a runner-up on a that kind of a trophy, I'm gonna go with Philip Forsberg, honestly.
Did I sell you on episode 2 on Philip Forsberg?
You
I
did,
I
you
feel
did. He's
like
got
I
a lot
did.
of weapons.
I feel like I sold you on Philip Forsberg. Perfect. So generally with the Art Ross Trophy, not always, but generally with the Art Ross Trophy, you also have the same person win the Hart Memorial Trophy. Now, that's not always the case. In some cases, you'll have two different winners, but the Hart Memorial Trophy is given to the overall player that is best for their team, the most valuable player to their team. If you were to take this player out of the roster, would that team perform any better? So, for example, some of the previous winners that we've seen last season, we had Nathan McKinnon. Prior to that, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, and then Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. With those names, any point in time, you could pick those players out of that team, and that team wouldn't be making the playoffs, let alone going for deep runs. So this year, with all the movement that's happened around the NHL, who are you projecting to potentially be the Hart Memorial and MVP of the season?
I think I'm gonna probably have to give it to McKinnon again or McDavid again. I think a runner-up would probably be Austin Matthews on that one.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. Austin Matthews is pretty valuable to his team.
Yeah, and I just don't think that if without him, I don't think that they're anywhere near the amount of wins that they have in a typical season.
I initially wanted to pick Connor McDavid for this award, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate from Edmonton Oilers fans, but looking at the offseason moves that the Oilers have made with the amount of weaponry they have now, I think even if Connor McDavid were to have days where he's not playing up to his potential, or maybe he's injured or he's just sitting out for whatnot, I think the team would still thrive and be a playoff team. So I don't know if giving him the Hart Memorial Trophy potentially this next year would be my number one choice. I think he might be number 3 on my list, which is, I know, controversial, but number one I have to put on my list is, again, Nathan McKinnon. You take Nathan McKinnon out of Colorado, they have Cal McCarr, they have Ranton, but he's so vital to that team, right?
Right.
And he does provide the majority of the offense to that team. If you have a season where Nathan McKinnon is not there, do you think Colorado's challenging for first or second in their division? I don't think so. So
No, I don't either.
I have to put Nathan McKinnon first, and I think the second player, this one is going to be completely out of the park on this one.
Okay.
He comes from the New York Rangers,
Really?
Zibanejad.
Okay, I can
You,
get behind that.
you take Zibanejad out of New York for an extended period of time. Yes, they have the weaponry. Yes, they have, Fox, they have Panarin, they have great players. But when I look at the New York Rangers, the heart memorial, I guess the heart and soul of that team is Zibanejad, right? And
Right.
I think he would be my runner up. So I would go Nathan McKinnon, Zibanejad, and then Connor McDavid potentially this season for that Hart Memorial.
I was gonna put Nathan McKinnon at third.
A third, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I like that. Next is the Rocket Richard Trophy. Now you and we had a couple back and forth discussions on who was gonna score the most amount of goals, and look, I didn't wear this jersey for a reason. Okay, I'm not hinting that I am going to project this person to get the most amount of goals, but I will put him on the top 3 list. So, for those of you who don't know, the Rocket Richard Trophy is given to the player who has the most goals by the end of the regular season. Their previous winners of the Rocket Richard Trophy include Austin Matthews last year with an amazing 69 goals, Connor McDavid the year prior, 64, and then again Austin Matthews 60 and Austin Matthews again 41. So uh, you would not be completely out of the betting ticket if you chose Austin Matthews, because that is kind of a safe bet. but I think Austin Matthews is going to be second on my list. Ovechkin, Ovechkin. I'm not going to turn around, but I think Ovechkin will be third, and I think number one is going to go with what I said in episode two was Philip Forsberg. I think Philip Forsberg will actually amplify his game with all the assets that Nashville added this offseason. I think he gets the top goal scorer nod this year.
So I was gonna do Austin Matthews, Philip Forsberg, and then I was going to do McDavid, and in that order.
I like the McDavid pick. It's just I don't know what it is. McDavid is just he can score goals, but
Yeah,
that was at a time. So when McDavid was scoring goals, that was at a time where Edmonton didn't really have many goal scoring options, and
right.
now they have so many. Like not to speak too much about Edmonton, but again, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman, Leon Draisaitl, Evander Kane, Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson, Matthias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard. Like these are all guys that can just put the puck in the net. So McDavid, all he has to do is, you know, collect a few apples and he's good. So I like it him at number three. I would love to see McDavid score 60 goals again. That would be perfect. But
I don't think 60's out of reach for him.
it's not out of reach. 50, I think
Yeah,
50 would be a safe bet if we're going to be
I
honest.
think that I think that yes, they have a lot of options to score goals, enough options to score goals
Yeah.
up there in Edmonton. But at the same time, I think that McDavid is so dynamic, and I think that he is so creative with the way he does score goals.
Yeah.
Even though they have options, I just think it's gonna be a bloodbath
Could you
all
imagine?
year of them blowing out everybody.
Could you imagine a surprise dark horse of Johnny Gaudreau because of that connection with Monahan? Johnny Gaudreau just puts
I
up 64 goals. Just
I'll tell you, if Johnny Gaudreau hits more than 20,
oh,
I'll be happy.
you'll be happy. You know what?
Yeah.
I totally agree with you on that one. I would be happy for you because I think Columbus does need another playoff run for sure.
I just think Johnny has fallen off since leaving Calgary.
Yeah, he has. I mean, it's hey, who knows? Calgary might trade Johnny straight up for Jonathan Huberdeau. Who knows?
Yeah.
The next one is now that we talk about all these points being scored and all these assists and goals being put into the net, we have to talk about the opposite end, the defensive side. The Frank J. Selke Trophy, for those of you who don't know, is awarded to the player who represents the best defensive aspects of the game. In some cases, we would think a defenseman could win this, but generally it is a forward who wins this illustrious trophy, which I think they should eventually call it the Patrice Bergeron Trophy. No disrespect to Frank J. Selke, but Patrice Bergeron was the definition of a defensive forward who would shut down any team's offense. Doesn't matter if you bring a first or second or third line or fourth line.
Right.
He was able to do it. So, um, here's the list, which is going to drive you nuts. Alexander Barkov won it last year. Then the 2 years prior to that, Patrice Bergeron, then Barkov again. So for the last four winners is between those two players. Then it was Couturier, O'Reilly, Kopitar, Patrice Bergeron, Kopitar, Bergeron. So generally these forwards have been kind of bigger in size. They're kind of that
Uh-huh.
big bruising forward that can put pucks in the net, but at the same time be defensively responsible. Now, I don't want to make this pick, but I have to give respect where respect is due. I don't know of another forward right now in the NHL that is as good as shutting down other top lines than Alexander Barkov. I think he's going to win it again this year. Uh, Honestly, Kopitar is good, but I don't think he's as quick anymore to be able to shut down some of the top offensive players. Now, that's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong, but I'm thinking Alexander Barkov is going to be my pick for sure.
Um, I really like and the one from Winnipeg. It's gonna drive me nuts. I can't think of it. He's my top. My second, I'm probably gonna go with Kopitar, and then I think third. I would like to go Barkov second, and then Kopitar third. I'm looking up the roster right now. Mark Scheifele.
Shifley.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's gonna win it.
That's interesting. I would,
Yep,
you know, who
it's a
I would
bit of
like to
a
see win it as a dark horse.
that's my dark horse is Mark Scheifele.
You know who I'd like to see it as a dark horse win it?
Yep.
Jonathan Huberdeau.
Okay.
He deserves it. I mean, he has put
Yeah.
in so much work over his career, and I think it would be good because the offense didn't come last year. It didn't. I mean,
No. No.
it's we can't debate the facts, right?
Right.
So maybe if the offense is not there this year, maybe focusing more a little bit more on the defensive game because he's still a phenomenal player. I think he would be a top line player on any team, in my opinion. So I hope he gets it as my dark horse. You're gonna like this next one. So the next one is the Bill Masterton Trophy. Forgive me. This is given to the player that has overcome and shows a lot of perseverance and integrity through the sport. They've overcome a lot, whether it's injuries, whether it's time away from the game, you name it. I think you already know who I'm going to pick. There, in my mind, I don't think there's another player that deserves it more than Patrick Laine. With everything that he's gone through, with the hot start, the way he was drafted, coming over from Finland, drafted and being very successful, putting up goals, putting up numbers, to dealing with some trades, having to move to a brand new city, trying to re-find his form, realizing that maybe he needed to kind of take a little bit of a break from the game to kind of get his mental state correct. And he's done that, and he's persevered through that, and he's
Mm.
acknowledged that he wants a fresh start and he wants to keep playing the game that he loves. And I think
Right.
there is nobody in the NHL, I'm not saying that nobody in the NHL loves the game. I think with everything that he's gone through, I think he would be my number one choice to win it. The previous winners were Connor Ingram, Christopher Letang, Carey Price. So these guys are all players that have gone through several ordeals in their life, whether it's related to hockey or outside of hockey, and they find a way to persevere through that and play the sport that they love. So my choice is going to be Patrick Laine for there.
I'm gonna agree with you on that. I think if he gets in the right situation and can come back and have I would even say moderately decent season, I think that he deserves it.
I think even if he doesn't have a decent season, just to be able to come back and play, because I know a lot of
Hmm.
us, we when we have those troubles in our life, we have those mental struggles in our life, we have things that are happening to us. It's hard for us to come back to potentially what might have been around when those things were happening. It could be
Right.
a sense of a trigger, right? So for him to be able to overcome that, I vouch for people like that who can overcome situations in their life that have caused them to stop doing what they love the most. And
Right.
now, there's no disrespect to any other player that's in the game. I mean, everybody's obviously going through their own life situations and whatnot. But Patrick Laine to me is amazing. Like we remember 2016, it was Craig Anderson. Uh,
Hmm.
he was battling a lot, and when I say a lot, like his life was essentially in peril based
Hmm.
off of everything he was battling off the ice. And so for him to come back and play and give it his all. So somebody like Patrick Laine, I think, is very, very deserving of it. Um,
I also think it's a little wild to me that Evander Kane has not won it with everything he went through with the whole gambling and having to take time and going bankrupt. And
so I think
I
that
think it's kind of
one
wild that he didn't win it.
I think that one's a little bit different because I think players who are looked
He-
upon in a negative light for things that they do
yeah,
negatively to themselves outside the game probably wouldn't receive it. I mean, I get it. Like he has gone through a lot, but he's
I
cleaned
think
up.
it's because it's a self-imposed struggle
Yeah,
rather than it being something that's like mentally and not anything that they could have helped.
yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
and you know what? I mean, he's cleaned up. He's a great person. He's a great individual. I mean, in life we all make mistakes. It's what we do with the opportunities to correct that. and he's done
Right.
a good job. Corey Perry's also done a good job. Like these guys have gone out of their way to make their situations better after it was in peril, self inflicted. But um, for a player like Patrick Laine, he definitely deserves it. Now, another player that I think would be a good person to win that. Now, this could be a little bit controversial. I don't know if that would be awarded to a player. Here, let me look it up really quickly. Um, because I think, look, every player deserves to have perseverance, sportsmanship. So yeah, to the player who best exemplifies the qualities of perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. One name that comes to my mind would be a runner-up, Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I was
another
just
player.
thinking that.
That's another player who has played the game. I mean, he's a champion. He's won, and since then
Right.
he has overcome several odds of maybe even being ruled out as a starting goaltender. Like
Yep.
you remember when at the time Pittsburgh didn't like bother to protect him and they let him go to Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and he was
Yeah.
the face of Las Vegas, and then after that Las Vegas didn't even want him,
Yeah.
and he still went to Minnesota and he still killed it. All right, so I think he's another player that I would put up there as
Not only still killed it, I think I would say he's continuing to do it. I don't think he's fallen off any. I think Minnesota giving him that extra year, I think that kind of shows them like we understand you're kind of near the end of your career, but we still want you here because we think you're good
exactly.
enough.
And he kind of reminds me of Rolly the goalie. I don't know if you ever remember Dwayne Rolson. Um,
Yeah.
he was one goaltender that was kind of ruled out, and he took the Oilers on a massive run in 2006. Same thing with, Mike Smith. Mike Smith was an older goaltender. He had a lot of good seasons in Tampa Bay, a lot of good seasons with Arizona, Calgary, like all the teams that Mike Smith ever played for, like that was like a hard-working goaltender. He's a hard-working man. Like
It was like Jonathan Quick until he got to New York.
yeah, Jonathan Quick would also be a third option, right? I mean, they're they said it on I believe it was on NBC or TNT. I think it was PK Subban. It's the type of guys that they bring their lunchbox to work. They may not have the most significant role, but they're coming ready to work and they're
Right.
showing that sportsmanship and persevering through anything that's going on in their life. Because hockey players, they deal with trade talks, they deal with potentially being sent down or moved up, and there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of inside the organization things they have to deal with, plus outside the organization stuff to deal with. So players that
Right.
can bring their lunchbox to work, good on them. The next one I think is going to be pretty easy to decide because I don't really know the rookie class that well, and
Me
maybe
neither.
maybe I have to go through and study the rookie class. But as a betting man, I would probably have to put Matt Celebrini to win the Calder Memorial Trophy, which is awarded to the Rookie of the Year, who
Yep.
exemplifies the best season from a rookie. Other than Matt Celebrini, I don't know of a rookie that would be on that list. Previous winners were Connor Bedard. That was kind of a given, even though Brock Faber should have won that. Uh,
Yep.
2 years ago, believe it or not, kind of hurts me now. Matt Beniers won it. No disrespect, but guess who the runner-up was?
I'm actually not sure.
Stuart Skinner.
Oh,
Stuart Skinner was the runner-up, and then prior to that, uh, Moritz Seider, and then Trevor Zegras was the runner-up. So anything can happen in the rookie class.
yeah.
Who do you think is going to be?
I think Celebrini is going to be the top as well. I think that he's going to have, barring he doesn't get injured, I think he's going to have probably a better rookie season. Just if he doesn't get injured than Connor Bedard did.
Yeah, because now he also, I mean, he has Tyler Toffoli to learn from,
Hmm.
which is crazy because uh, you know the what's his first name? Alexander. I think it's Alexander Barabanov.
Hmm.
He's signed in the KHL, so he left. Right, that
Yeah.
would have been a great addition to the Sharks to be able to stay there and play with Celebrini. But now he has Toffoli to learn from, and I think he's going to make the most of that. If I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna give you a choice here. You want to do the Vesna, or do you want to do the Norris?
Uh, I we'll do
Go
Vesna first.
Vesna. Okay, so given to
Yeah.
the best goaltender in the regular season. So this is the goaltender that has the fewest number of goals during the regular season, and which is the current criteria for the Williams Jennings Trophy. Uh, so generally, if you have the fewest goals and you are considered the best goaltender, you will win the William M. Jennings Trophy if you have the fewest goals because you're considered the best goaltender.
Right.
You already know my pick based off of episode 2. I'm not picking any other goaltender.
You're gonna go Skinner.
No, I'm going with UC Saros.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm
Yep.
I have to go with UC Saros with the talent that he has in front of him now. Um, Not to mention he is a phenomenal goaltender, and on top of that, he has to make sure he holds down that net. He's signed a brand spanking new extension, and he has a Skarov that's right behind him, challenging him for his position. So, if there was any time for a goaltender to say, "I am the best at this sport and I will not be replaced," it's UC Saros.
Yeah. I I think Saros is gonna be my second. I think he's gonna be my runner-up.
Okay, who do you have as your first pick?
I like Hellebuck. I just
Hellebuck.
Yep.
I I have to disagree with that. I mean, no disrespect, Hellebuck is a great goalie, but
He still has a very good defense, and he's got Eric Comrie, who's gonna be challenging him for the starting spot as well.
okay, let me ask you this then. Which tandem would you rather have? Saros Askarov or Hellebuck Comrie?
Probably Saros.
That's the tandem that's going to win it. Because Connor
But
Hellebuck,
that's not
no, but here's the thing.
but the trophy's not for the tandem.
No, no, I understand that, but that the tandem is so important because each of the goaltenders, the skill level, are able to push each other and
Yeah.
make each other better. And I think Askarov, no disrespect to Comrie, I think Askarov is in a much better position to challenge Saros, and they work. Think of Linus Allmark and Jeremy Swayman, right?
Yeah.
Both
Yeah.
relatively equal goaltenders, in my opinion, and they pushed each other, and they were a phenomenal tandem. Whereas Hellebuck is going to be playing probably the majority of games in the season. Uh,
Yeah.
and yes, he does have the Winnipeg team in front of him, but look at that division, how much better they got. Like, he's going to have to deal with Colorado. He's going to have to deal with Dallas. He's going to have to deal with Nashville. And then outside of their division, the improvements on the western side and the eastern side. Like, I mean, it's a tall order to ask for Hellebuck to kind of go 40 games in the season and come out on top of all 40 games because there's some
Yeah.
pretty strong teams there. Whereas if I put Saros there, I know that I could put Skarov back there and he will provide that push that Saros needs and also provide him that break and relief that Saros will need.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
I think personally, the Vezina Trophy goes to Saros because of the connection with Askarov and just the positioning, right? Because Connor Hellebuck, he's not really challenged. Do you see Comrie usurping Connor Hellebuck? I don't think so.
No.
No.
And I see your point, but I'm gonna hold to my guns here. I really think that Hellebuck is one of I think he's the best goalie in the league, honestly.
A-
And I know you said it's a tall order, but it's a good thing that he's 6'4" off the ice.
And
So
like I said at the beginning, we could be on the button here. We could be completely
mhm.
off, right? I'm gonna write
Yep.
all this stuff down of all of our picks so that at the end of the season we can do a review. I can come back and clip all this stuff, and we can do a review of where we were right, where we were wrong. And for
Yeah.
those of you who are in chat, like by all means, drop it into the comment section. Who do you think is going to be the goaltender that wins the Vesna? Or if we're right on some of these picks, I mean, we'd like to hear from you guys. So the
Yep.
next one then is the Norris Trophy. The Norris Trophy is awarded to the best overall defenseman in the NHL.
Oh,
Some
there
of
you go. Mine.
you may know that the Norris Trophy, I like to call it the Lidstrom Trophy because Nicholas Lidstrom was the definition of the Norris Trophy, offense and defense. But some
Mhm.
of the previous winners were Quinn Hughes, Eric Carlson, and Cal McCarr, and Adam Fox, Roman Yossi. Like, so that's a pretty solid list of defensemen that have won that. Who are you projecting to come away this season with the Norris?
Uh, I'm gonna go. He's gonna repeat. I'm going Quinn Hughes.
Quinn Hughes. Okay.
Yep.
May I ask why?
Man, I've seen him play in person, and I've seen he. You know how when you know how a center is supposed to be essentially the eyes, the general of the ice, right?
Yeah.
When Quinn Hughes is on the ice, it's not the center. It's Quinn Hughes who's doing everything, and he's the one who's directing everybody. And I just think that he's pivotal to that team.
Okay.
Honestly, and thinking back on it, I would almost put him in my top three for heart now that I think about it.
Are you sure you're not a Vancouver fan?
I am. I'm sure that I'm not. I really like certain players, and I think Quinn Hughes is up there for me.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think he looks like a goofball, but
I think that makes sense. So if I have to go, so this has probably been the hardest one for me because as an Edmonton Oilers fan, I obviously want to put uh, Evan Bouchard there, but Evan Bouchard still has to work a little bit on his defensive game. He does have the offense there, so he definitely has the offensive side locked down. But I want to make a sneaky, sneaky pick, and I really, really was upset that he wasn't picked last year. So last year was Quinn Hughes, Roman Yossi as a runner-up, and prior to that was Eric Carlson, Adam Fox, and Cal McCarr, Roman Yossi, right? So Roman Yossi, I think, would be my pick as the runner-up this season. But the person who should have won it last year and I think should win it this year was his old running mate in Matthias Ekholm.
okay.
He was a defenseman that he can chip in offensively, but he provided a stabilizing force when he was on the ice. It didn't matter who he was paired with, whether it was on the power play, whether it was on the penalty kill, 5-on-5, 4-on-4, 3-on-3. Whenever Matthias Ekholm was on the ice, you knew you were never going to be in trouble, regardless of who the partner was. He
Right.
was he was by far, in my opinion, and I watched a lot of Oilers games and I watched a lot of other games, but I it reminds me of Duncan Keith in Chicago,
Okay.
right? So Duncan Keith, yes, you remember that dynasty team? They had Nicholas Harmerson, Brent Seabrook, Duncan Keith. Like they had a stellar defensive core, but you were always secure with Duncan Keith being on the ice. Same thing with some of the previous winners like Drew Doughty, Brent Burns, Victor Hedman. If I tell you that these guys are on the ice for a crucial situation, I'm happy. Now with Quinn Hughes, he is a great defenseman, but I feel like with Quinn Hughes, he could be overmatched at times, and it's all dependent also on his defensive partner. Because I think when it comes to defensemen, who you play with matters. Like for example,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Darnell Nurse was selected very high up for the Oilers, and they paired him with Cece, and that connection just didn't work. But
Right.
Darnell Nurse is a power horse defenseman,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I look at a defenseman that I know I could put on the ice and be safe putting him on the ice with either the first line or the fourth line and know that my team is okay to rest its superstars. And I think Matthias Ekholm was robbed last year of that trophy. I don't even know if he got votes, but I think he was one player that should have won it. And I think this season he should be my number one guy. And I'm gonna pick Matthias Ekholm.
Okay.
I'm going to challenge you on every one of your picks, especially if one of
That's
your
fine.
picks is a Vancouver Canucks. I love the Vancouver Canucks. I love you guys in Vancouver. I love the fans. You guys are amazing. I love the city. But as an Oilers fan, I can't cheer for the Vancouver Canucks unless you guys are going for the cup. Then I'll put my differences aside and I'll cheer for you guys because I want Canadians to win a cup. It's been a long time, right?
Yep.
I'm that guy. All right.
I feel like all of Canada is that guy.
No, apparently not. Apparently not. There was still team Calgary was not going to cheer for Edmonton. Let's be real. I would be very surprised to see many teams cheer for Toronto. Toronto is not
Well, yeah.
considered a team that many Canadians would cheer for, but
I feel like Toronto's really only liked in Toronto.
uh, Toronto is they have their own issues internally that they have to deal with. So,
Yes, they do.
the next one I think is going to be an interesting one as well. It is known as the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy. This is given to the player that exemplifies the best sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct. So that includes with high standard of playing. So generally, these guys don't go into the penalty box. So if you're choosing a guy who has almost 1,000 minutes of fighting, you're not choosing the right guy. Some of the previous winners were Jacob Slavin, Anze Kopitar, Kyle Connor, Slavin again, Nathan McKinnon. Some of the runner-ups included Elias Peterson, Jack Hughes, Jacob Slavin, and Jared Spurgeon. Uh, who are you picking?
I'm actually going to go with previous runner-up, and I'm going to go with Jack Hughes.
Jack Hughes. Okay. I'm going to keep him as my runner-up.
Okay. My runner-ups in Columbus, I'm going to say it's probably Boone Jenner.
Boone Jenner. Okay. You ready for mine?
I am.
Steven Stamkos.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go with Steven
Okay.
Stamkos because now he doesn't have to be the captain of the team. He doesn't have
Right.
to be the face of the franchise. All he has
Right.
to do is he comes in, he chips in, he plays the game, and he doesn't have to take penalty minutes. He doesn't have to do any of that. He doesn't have to fight. He doesn't have to do any of that.
There's a lot of pressure released from him.
A lot of pressure. Now he can just come play the game. Um,
Right.
I think he's going to be a sneaky little pick for the trophy. And who knows? I'm hoping that I'm right at the end of the season because I think he's a great player. And what better way to show the NHL and your former team that regardless of what happened, I'm still going to conduct myself in a professional and gentlemanly manner. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to play hockey the way I've played hockey, and I'm going to do it at the best and the highest level.
I mean, that'd be a way to do it.
That's my pick. That is definitely my pick. The next one is the Ted Lindsay Award. The Ted Lindsay Award is awarded to the player, forgive me, who is the most outstanding player as voted by the fellow members of the National Hockey League Player Association. Now, Reed and I are not members of this association. If we were, that would be kind of cool because that would mean that we're hockey players. But let's for a moment imagine we'll take ourselves out of the GM's chair and we'll imagine ourselves as being players and voting on the best player in the NHL um, amongst the rest of our fellow peers. Reed, who are you going to vote for?
Um, I, I I don't see how Connor McDavid does not get this one. I just don't. I would like it to be somebody else, but I don't. I do not think. I think the whole NHL sees McDavid, sees how just stunning he is, and then I think backup would probably be Bedard.
So, some of the previous winners: Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. For this award, I am going to stay with Edmonton. However, I'm not going to choose Connor McDavid, and I'm not going to choose Leon Draisaitl.
Ooh,
I'm going to choose the
hard name.
definition of hard nosed, hard working, come to the rink every night, regardless what place you are in the standings, and work.
Big hard name.
Zach Hyman.
Oh,
Zach
other
Hyman, to
winner.
me, I think is players need to look at him and realize the work ethic that he brings on every shift, regardless
Mhm.
whether they're winning or losing, makes him outstanding. He signed a contract that many people would have thought was well below what he should have signed for. And then he goes out and he scores 60 goals, right? So he works hard. Now, some people will say some of his goals are easy because he does have Connor McDavid or he does have Leon Draisaitl and he has to park himself in front of the net or whatever. But if you
It's just
take
Edmonton hockey.
the Edmonton hockey, but the thing is, he works hard for his goals, and
Right.
I think players need to recognize because he has that mentality of now if you remember this the Detroit dynasty or yeah Detroit dynasty shortly after actually no it's part of the dynasty Holmstrom Thomas Holmstrom
Okay.
worked very hard, and I thought he was outstanding. Yes, he had Yzerman. Yes, he had Shanahan. Yes, he had Zetterberg, Datsuk. He had all these players. Draper.
Oh,
He, I could.
that's
The list goes on, right? They had all
yeah.
these players around him, and to me, he was the most outstanding because he worked hard. He didn't have to be the face of the franchise. He didn't have to be the face of the NHL. You just go out there, you work hard, and your work ethic shows how good you are. And I think
Right.
beyond the stats, beyond anything else, Zach Hyman is that person that I would hope that the rest of the NHL sees. Because look, it's easy to pick guys like Connor McDavid. It's easy. It's easy to pick guys like Nathan McKinnon. It's easy to pick guys like Austin Matthews because yes, they are going out there. They're scoring goals. They're leading their team. But I mean, that's what the Hart Memorial Trophy is for, right? That's what the
Right.
Rocket Richard Trophy is for. That's what the all
Right.
these other trophies are for, right? But I want to look for a player that is, in my mind, overall doing
Agreed.
everything he can to be the best he can be and stands out without taking that spotlight but he's still contributing. And I think Zach Hyman is that guy.
You want a gritty player
A gritty, hard nosed player who
yeah,
doesn't get into, fights like
every other week.
every other week. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he's gonna work hard, and I guess it's my experience with watching Edmonton. They you know how the NHL will have the kind of like the mic'd up with the players, and
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
see like there's days where Edmonton fans and even the players themselves looked kind of dejected after like some pretty brutal games. And he
Right.
comes out there and he says, "You know what? Let's just keep working at it. Let's keep working at it.
Yep.
We're gonna do it." And then what does he do? The next shift, he goes out there. He goes and gets the puck from the end boards and goes and scores a goal. Right? To
Right.
me, that's outstanding. He perseveres not only with the game, but he shows integrity and leadership, and he brings that to his community. He brings that to the organization as a whole. He brings it to the
Mm.
fans. So I think for me personally, Zach Hyman would be the most outstanding player, as voted by the Players Association. Now, if I could send my ticket in, I would. But
So you're not gonna put Matt Rempe up there anytime soon.
oh well, I don't know. The training with George Larocque might have convinced me, but I don't
He just
think I'm
seems
gonna.
like someone who's probably gonna his whole role is to fight.
Yeah, I mean he took the classes to get into that.
Yep.
So now moving on from the players, we're gonna go into a little bit of management and some of the trophies that are handed to the management. We have the Jack Adams Award. Normally is given to the coach that presents as the best coach in the NHL during the regular season. Which, before I get into this, I would like to say, well, so the NHL website says to the coach, adjudged to have contributed to the most to his team's success. I want to say before anything else, before we move on, I really think that this award should only be awarded at the end of the season and the playoffs
Yep.
because
Yep.
or at least have another award that gives it for the season, the best coach of the season and then the best coach of the playoffs. Because realistically,
Well, like season and then overall.
a season and overall because well actually no, I wouldn't even do overall. I would do season and playoffs because
Okay.
if I'm looking at overall, so last year Rick Tocchet won and the runner up was Andrew Brunette. And then prior to that was Jim Montgomery and Lindy Ruff, and then prior to that was Daryl Sutter and Andrew Brunette. So Andrew Brunette has been a runner up twice in the last 4 years. but it negates the fact that if a coach starts off really bad and then gets fired and then another coach comes in.
Right.
So Rick Tocchet had the Vancouver Canucks at the top of the Pacific Division for the majority of the season. He did a great
Mhm.
job. I'm not going to lie about that. He was a great coach. But at the
Right.
end of it, Rick Tocchet didn't get the Vancouver Canucks to this Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. Chris
Right.
Knobloch did, and he came in when the Oilers were
Right.
3-9-1, and he led that team from November all the way to the Stanley Cup final. And to me,
Right.
that type of coaching, yes, you have all the skilled players, but if you have a coach that can take your team from a dire situation and make them a much better team and coach them well, they should be in consideration after the season and the playoffs have done. Because, like, for example, Rick Tocchet wins Coach of the Year last year. He wins this award. No offense or disrespect to him, because yes, he did a great job with Vancouver. But if Chris Knobloch goes out, brings the Oilers from 3-9-1, and he wins the Stanley Cup, does he not deserve to be the Coach of the Year?
Yeah.
Because he had to change the mentality and the culture in that room and get
Right.
and he had to push if you watch the playoffs, the commentators would say this is the coach that has the fingers on the pulse of the team. He knows what
Right.
buttons to push and how to make the team successful. And so this is why I
Yeah.
think the Jack Adams Award should be awarded to coaches from the start to the end, and it should only be ended or awarded at the end of the playoffs. So when they hand
Right.
out the Conn Smythe, they hand out the Jack Adams, in my
Right. Right.
opinion, because the winning coach should get the Jack Adams.
Yeah.
So this year, I'm putting Chris Knobloch because this is a man that has his finger on the pulse of that team, and he showed it all through last season when he was hired.
I think we're on the same page. I don't really see anybody that's turned their team around and could have future sustained success other than Chris Knobloch. Yeah.
And so, I mean, and that's where I guess that's where the debate also comes in, right? Because you have teams like Tampa Bay who have highly skilled players versus teams like San Jose or Columbus or
Right.
Calgary,
Easy.
right? I mean, are we just not picking teams that have, like, what about the middle teams, right? Because some of those middle teams that are on the bubble and their coach comes in and says, "Hey, like, let's make a change," and then they make the playoffs.
Right.
That's a coach that I would consider that is could be the best overall coach, right? That's kind of how I see it's being picked right now. But unless they make that change to put the coach, the Jack Adams Award at the end of the playoffs and hand it out with the Conn Smythe, I don't really know how it's fair to pick the coach of the season because, um, oh my
Do you think
goodness,
it's just a popularity contest versus a statistical?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know because if it was a popularity contest, John Tortorella wouldn't have won because a lot of people don't like John Tortorella, right?
Yeah, but I think John Tortorella also has something about him in Philadelphia. I mean,
But
he
he's
they may
able.
not make it to the playoffs, but he's hard nosed, and he was the same way in Columbus too.
So what if, okay, for example, what if John Tortorella went to San Jose, took that team all the way to the Stanley Cup final? You think he
I
wins
would
it
say he
then?
probably.
He
I
wins it
think he
then, right?
should.
He should,
I think
right?
he should.
But
If you're taking a bottom two or three team to the Stanley Cup Finals, yeah, you deserve it.
you should. And that's my point. The Oilers
Yep.
were in 31st. They were
Yeah.
3-9-1. Chris Knobloch came in and took that team to the Stanley Cup final and
Yeah, he should have won it.
wasn't even before the Stanley Cup playoffs started, wasn't even awarded a runner-up nomination. He took Edmonton from last place in the Western Conference into second place in the
Right.
division and they were the best team in the NHL since he got hired.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So that to me, the Jack Adams Award, I digress. I think that's something that should be changed to award to the best coach for the whole season, and
I
that
agree.
includes playoffs because Rick Tocchet, great coach, but he didn't outcoach Chris Knobloch.
No.
He just didn't, right? Edmonton won it. Yes, we had some of the skilled players. Players do make a difference, but it's all about coaching. And I remember when I was coaching way back when I was in Canada, you have to be able to get all the personalities to agree on something. There's many
Not only that,
personalities
but
out
you
there.
have to not only the personalities, but you have to be able to make the lines. You have to be able to pair them well against the opponent's lines.
Yep.
That doesn't fall on the players. The players aren't going to be able to do that. The players can go out on the ice on their shifts whenever they want, but if it's not for the coach saying, "Okay, you three are going," I mean, just look at Game 7, the last period of Game 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yep.
Knobloch had McDavid on the ice for
Two
what felt
minutes.
like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think McDavid played probably like the last 10 minutes of that game.
Yeah,
Straight
consistently. He would come off for 30 seconds and then he was right back on
right
because
back
he
on.
he understood this is what could win it for us.
I mean, that's your best choice to win.
Yeah,
This next one, also upper management. It is the Jim Gregory General Manager of the Year award. It's awarded to the league's most outstanding general manager. And in my opinion, I think it's the general manager that um, constructs the best possible team to win it.
I'll give it to Nationals. I don't even know who the guy is. Give it to him.
Barry Trotz, believe it or not.
Yes,
So the
give it to him.
previous 2 years, Jim Nill of the Dallas Stars won it. Prior to that, it was Joe Sakic, and then prior to him, 2 years was Lou Lamoriello twice, and then Don Sweeney. And then the 2017 George McPhee won it. I still debate that because he had a plethora of players to choose from. So he
Right.
built the team. I give him credit, but um, when it comes to the GM of the year, this is another award that I think uh, should be given to the GM at the end of the year. Did your
Yeah.
team win?
Yeah.
Okay, because Dallas didn't win the Stanley Cup. Florida did,
Right.
right? So Bill Zito technically should have been the GM of the year,
Right. Right.
right? And I think that's where some of these executive awards that they have should be reserved to the end of the playoffs. So this season, I mean, if I'm going based off the criteria, I mean, it's easy to say Barry Trotz, right? But
Yeah.
why not Jeff Jackson from Edmonton, who built that roster? Why not?
Yeah.
Why not Steve Yzerman? Because who knows? Some of the additions that these GMs have made, we don't know until the season and the playoffs actually play out. The New York
Right.
Rangers had a phenomenal team last year, right?
I did. Yeah.
They did well. Carolina also had a phenomenal team last year, right? So they
I
have
think they got a phenomenal team still.
yeah, they have phenomenal teams still, right? There's so many teams right now that have all been built by their general manager. And the thing is, general manager has to watch throughout the season, make sure the right adjustments are there, and then the trade deadline is so important. Maybe going out and shopping, right? Getting a steal of a deal or swinging a trade in their favor. Like these are important things that the general manager needs to do.
Or
And
even just putting out there, hey, we're listening.
exactly. That's very important, and I think at the end of the season is when it should be awarded to the
Yeah.
team. So if
I'm still gonna go with Nationals.
yeah, I mean
I just think that team.
that's all we're gonna do. That's all we can do, right? Is to pick the
Yeah.
team that we think did the best in the offseason. I am going to say Barry Trotz as well. I think he so it's a combination for me. I think it's Barry Trotz. Um, I think he did a pretty bang up job. Got the top three free agents off the list. But I'm also looking for depth as well in how they built their team. I like to put Edmonton
Okay.
second, but Edmonton didn't have a GM. It was Jeff Jackson, so they kind of worked
Right.
with as a team. So I'm gonna negate Edmonton from this. I really like what New Jersey did. New Jersey brought in a few pieces, kind of
Yeah.
stabilized their team, filled in what they needed to. They weren't the star players that Nashville or other teams got, but they did enough to kind of work out and build their team. Um, but I mean, we won't know until the end of the season which GM did the best. But I can tell you right now, some of the GMs that I wouldn't consider are ones from the New York Islanders who stayed put and did nothing. Right, early
Right.
season. I don't know if that's a GM I would put up there. Um, yeah, I mean, there's just so many that I can choose from in terms of GMs that are not working out too well,
I,
but they don't know until the season starts.
I think that my backup will probably be Tulski.
From Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was thrown into the position last minute. Don Waddell
Yep.
is also a great GM. I mean,
Yeah.
he has revolutionized
Yep.
his squad,
I
right?
just think
So
that the holes that Waddell left, Tulski fixed.
yeah. Well, just wait. Give it this season. Watch Don Waddell. Okay? I've watched Don Waddell. You remember Don Waddell built the Winnipeg Jets, right?
Yep.
Which was formerly the Atlanta Thrashers. He built that team.
Yeah.
And
I
now,
believe he was in contention to be in Columbus this year.
yeah. Don Waddell is a I have always loved him. If I man, I wish the Oilers would have gone out and gotten a GM like
Oh
Don
no,
Waddell.
he is the
He
GM.
is the
My
GM.
bad.
He
He
is the
is the
GM. Yeah,
GM
that's
of
what I'm saying.
Columbus. Yeah.
Watch and see what he does with your team. He's gonna make that team better. I
Good.
promise you, he's gonna make that team better.
Good.
I just
Get us
wish the
out of the
Oilers got him.
bottom third. I get us to fit get us to midway. First year in, get us to midway.
I I believe he will. I believe he will. I believe in Don Waddell, and that's the type of GM I wanted for the Edmonton Oilers.
I completely forgot that they had hired him.
All right, so now this one might be a little bit challenging.
Okay.
Who's going to be your President's Trophy winner this season? Not last year, New York won it.
Yeah. And that President's best overall
Yeah,
or
the
most
President's
points in the
Trophy is
season.
awarded to the team finishing with the most or the best overall record at the end of the regular season. So, it was the New York Rangers,
Man,
Boston Bruins, and Florida Panthers the
I've
last
got
three. You're going to pick Nashville, aren't you?
I am. I'm gonna do Nashville with a runner up of Edmonton.
Okay. Okay.
I can't I just with the roster that they have,
I
I can't go against it.
I like that pick, but I'm going to challenge that.
Okay.
Nashville did make some very, very good additions. I think they did
Huge.
a fantastic job in the offseason, right? But we have to account for the fact that there are three new players. Some new chemistry has to be formed. I think they're going to be a very good team. Very, very good team. But I think this year, President's Trophy,
Oh, you're gonna go with Edmonton, aren't you?
I'm going to go with Carolina.
Okay.
I think Carolina is going to win the President's Trophy this year.
Okay. I'll tell you, like I've said before, believe what I've said. I believe that I've said it on this podcast. They have my favorite player in the NHL, so I can respect that pick.
If they win the President's Trophy, I think going going forward into the playoffs, because you have the Clarence Campbell Trophy, which is awarded to the Western Conference champion, and then you have the Prince of
Mhm.
Wales Trophy, which is awarded to the Eastern Conference champion.
Right.
I think Clarence Campbell goes to Edmonton, the Prince of Wales goes to Carolina, and we see 2006 Stanley Cup playoff repeated this year, this upcoming season. Edmonton versus
Boy,
Carolina.
that's
Yeah,
I don't
yeah, because
I don't see
That Western
Carolina.
Conference championship is going to be Edmonton versus Nashville. I think it's going to be
Yeah,
Edmonton versus Nashville.
I just don't.
Okay,
We'll have to
who
see.
would you pick to win the Eastern Conference? If you had to pick one team just based off of everything that's happened so far, just a shot in the dark or whatever, who do you think is going to win the East?
In Eastern,
In the East? Because West right now, you and I have some debates. We're going to get to the West. But who do you think would win in the East? Carolina has, I think, by far the best team in the East.
yeah. I,
I need that
I'm
thumb.
not gonna go with Carolina. I'm gonna go with the Rangers, honestly.
The Rangers. You think the Rangers will do it? Okay.
Yeah.
They have a
I
lot of
just think
news.
something about yeah, I just think something about New York. That team's been good consistently. Granted, they haven't made it too terribly far, but they're constantly good.
Okay.
They're constantly someone who like if you as an Edmonton fan, but living in Texas, I'm sure that you've been able to like, oh, if you were going to be going to a game in Dallas, if New York was coming to town, you're probably like, Rangers are coming to town, you know?
I would catch that game, but I would predict Dallas to win that. If the Rangers were coming, I'd still predict Dallas to win that. Last
I
season, I
can't
would have.
after
Last
so
season, I would have.
yeah, last season I do. I just even this year I don't think so. Just because like okay, so let's go with Dallas and New York. We talked about it in episode 1. I think Dallas is getting a lot slower
They are,
and they're aging
but their
and
defense is what makes up for that. Their defense is so good. Don't we cannot rule out how good Dallas's defense is. So when I look at Dallas and New York, their goaltenders equal, in my
yeah,
opinion, are equal.
yeah,
Shesterkin and Ottinger, that they cancel each other out.
I would agree.
I think Dallas has a better defensive core than New York, but I think New York has a better offensive core than Dallas.
Yes, but I think that New York has a better offensive core than Dallas does a defensive core.
We're gonna have
I
to
think
watch
New
that
York's
game.
I think New York's offensive core beats Dallas's defensive core every time.
All right. Well, so we'll mark it down. We're gonna watch that game then.
Okay,
We'll
sounds
watch
good.
that game. You and I have no what's it?
I
No
don't
skin
have
in the
any
game.
allegiance to the yeah, I have no allegiance to either of those teams. So I
Okay. No skin in the game. So we'll look at that game. The next two awards are the King Clancy Memorial Trophy and the Mark Messier Leadership Award. So for those ones, it's kind of a little bit harder to determine. So I'm probably gonna save those ones till a little bit later on in the season as we get more information on those. So Mark Messier
we can
Leadership
hold off on those till mid-season.
mid-season, because the Mark Messier Leadership Award is given to the player who exemplifies obviously the most amount of leadership, but also helps in developing the game of hockey and the sport of hockey in their community, and also provides community outreach in the city that they're working with, or even a different city.
Right.
The other one I said was the King Clancy. Let me see if I can find it here. I just had it pulled up. The King Clancy is also leadership and humanitarian contribution. So essentially the same thing. A player who best exemplifies leadership qualities on and off the ice and who has made noteworthy humanitarian contributions to his community. So could be something that we could discuss maybe even at the end of the year. Because
Yeah, because that I feel like is something that it doesn't necessarily have to be on the ice and you're gonna get it. So it's just whoever feels most generous that year.
yeah, generous, or even, players, for those of you who don't know, players actively involve themselves in charitable organizations, or
Hmm.
helping out with Make-A-Wish Foundation and providing assistance to people who might not be able to live normal lives that we normally live. So it's hard to really pick
Yeah,
those until the end of the year.
yeah, but I'm pretty sure that to an extent it's all like contract obligated, like for your team, like you have to do X amount of public appearances, even if it is for charity. I believe that it's you're contractually obligated
Right,
to do
right.
some
You
of
are.
those. So,
You are.
so I believe that that trophy is more. uh, I believe it's more like, okay, yes, you do this for the team because you're contractually obligated, but what have you done past that?
Exactly. How do you go above and beyond? So I think
Right.
we can only determine that probably at the end of the season. So maybe we'll pencil that one down for towards the end of the season to see who's kind of really
To be
contributed.
determined.
So TBD. The next thing on our list, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been sticking around and tuning into this, don't forget to hit that thumbs up like button, okay? And then also hit that share button. Share it around to your friends who love hockey or love talking about hockey, or friends who love to troll and tell us that we're wrong about our picks, because we love those people
Yes,
too.
please.
Um,
Please.
and I'll take this time before we go on to the next topic to thank everybody who has viewed the previous videos and has started to view some of the shorts. Uh, that to us is showing us that what we're doing is kind of getting out there, and we truly do appreciate that. So all the support that you guys have been showing us with the likes, the shares, and the views, we appreciate that. We're trying to get to some subscribers here, so let's set a goal. How about this? For those of you who are watching or going to be watching this, right now we are at, I believe, 8 subscribers. Let's see if
Yeah,
we can get to 100. 100 should be a good first goal,
yep,
right? Let's get to
I agree.
100. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Help us get to our goal. And then next time we record, we'll put it on the list of where we're at in terms of our goal, so you guys can keep track with us. So the next thing on our list is going to be a little bit controversial. It's going to, well, I wouldn't say controversial. It's gonna be a little bit debatable. But we're gonna go over some of the potential breakout players that we're projecting to see have a better season this next season. In order to save time for you guys and for us, we're gonna kind of go by division. What player in each of the divisions we think, or maybe two players in the division that we think is going to really exemplify or take that next step in their evolution of their game. It could be a player that is already good and just getting better, or it could be a player who's had a slump and has come out of that slump, or it could be a player who completely comes out of nowhere and surprises us. We don't know. But I'm gonna let Reed go ahead and start off with his player from. Let's do. You want to do Metro Division?
Yeah, I'll do Eastern Metro.
Okay.
I like for my I'll do two from the Metro just because I think that this is I'm kind of in a toss up between the two. I like Luke Hughes
Okay.
for New Jersey. I think that he's going to take a pretty decent step to get to the level that his brother is on. And then I also like Jack Roslovic for Carolina.
You love Jack Russell. Jack
I
Roslovic.
do.
I think I've heard you say his name on several occasions. I mean, he's a great
He's
player.
good.
He
He's
is a great
good. And
player.
I think that now that he's in Carolina, he's got a 1 year deal. It's kind of a prove it kind of thing. I think he's going to really increase his play.
Okay. Um, those are pretty good selections. I like them. I think I'm gonna go player here from. I noted this down. Montreal Canadiens. They just signed him to a pretty good contract not too long ago. 2022 number 1 pick. I am not gonna say his name correctly. Slavovsky, I think.
Oh,
You're
Slavkovsky.
Slavkovsky. There you go. I'm terrible with names, so you're gonna have to forgive me. I think he's gonna do really good and potential chance of. Let me see. There's a second one here. You mentioned him. Oh, jeez, it's tough, man. That goaltender from Buffalo. What's his name? Luukkonen.
Lukin.
Luukkonen. I think he's gonna have a good year this year.
Yeah.
Buffalo may not have a good year, but I think he's gonna have a good year. I think he has a chance to steal a few games for Buffalo this season. So those would be my two picks. Yeah, those would be my two picks for that division. Moving
That was
on.
Atlantic. Buffalo's in Atlantic.
Sorry. Uh oh, did I give you the Atlantic? I gave you the Atlantic division. All right. Forgive me. I gave you two from the Atlantic. I gave you two from the Atlantic. I'm looking at
You
my
sh-
notes and I wrote
you
them
sure
down.
did.
I wrote them down in alphabetical order. So I have Atlantic number 1.
Yeah, that'll be the problem.
It's okay. I can always go back
Well,
and
now you have
I have my
Atlantic
Atlantic
division.
pick. I have my Atlantic picks. For the Metro, I will agree with Hughes. I think he's going to be good. In Washington, McMichael. I think he's going to have a
Okay.
breakout season as well. He I don't know how Washington's going to structure. Maybe if you remember your rosters, I'll have to probably talk to you about this after. But I think
Mhm.
it's Dubois first and then McMichael.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. So last season it was just McMichael first. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Dubois might move down to second, but I think McMichael, the centerman there, is going to be a player to really watch for. I mean, not to mention he's probably going to be playing with Alexander Ovechkin. Like he's going to be
Right.
feeding him the puck. Alexander Ovechkin's main goal
Right.
is to score. So I think he's going to have a really decent season for
Yeah.
the Metro. So now Atlantic, I gave you my two. I'll let you go ahead with your two.
I have my two at the ready. I think Moritz Sider.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that name is wild to me. But Moritz Sider, I think he's going to take a big leap big leap. I think he's very big, and I do think he's extremely talented with his puck handling, and I think he's going to take a huge leap this year, especially with the improvements that they made there in Detroit. And then, actually, believe it or not, my second person is going to be out of Toronto. I I think he's a great player as it is, but I think he's fighting for a better contract, and I'm going to go with Mitch Marner.
Okay, we're gonna go with Mitch Marner to have a
Yeah.
potentially breakout or a much better season. Okay, I like that. I like that. That's it.
Plus, he's coming off that injury last year, I believe,
Yeah,
and I believe that he's going to have to really
it
pick it up.
it's a contract year, so he
Yeah.
determines whether he gets a more
Are you
dollars
going
in
to get a huge
Toronto.
deal? Are you going to get a huge deal, or are you going to go somewhere else for about what you were making in Toronto?
I can agree with that. All right, we're gonna go to the Central Division, and I promise you this time I will not get this one wrong. We're gonna go to the Central Division. I'll let you start off. Who do you think are going to potentially, or maybe a player that's gonna have a breakout season?
um, I think he's very good. I don't think he's as good as he can be. Okay.
Okay,
And I've given out very controversial opinions about this specific player several times. They both of my picks for this division were rookies last year.
okay,
I'm gonna go with Connor Bedard. I think I'm telling you, if he has more time on the ice, I think he's able to
okay.
do
Connor
wonderful
Bedard.
things. I just don't think his career is going to be that long. I think he's too small. But I think this year, second year, I think he's going, and he's got a better surrounding
He's.
cast. I think that he's
I'm
going
gonna
to make
stop
a.
you there. He's gonna have a long career. He's a
I don't
good
think so.
player. He's gonna have a long career.
Does he keep the bubble on his whole career? That's the only way it's going to be long.
One more year.
That's the only way it's going to be long. Keep that bad boy on all year, every year. Play as long as Obi.
All right. All right. Okay. So Connor
And then
Bedard,
yeah, and then I'm actually gonna go with Faber as well.
Rock
I
Faber.
think new contract, he's gonna want to show like this is why you paid this much money.
Okay. Those are good picks. I like them. I am going to choose from the Dallas Stars, Wyatt Johnson.
Okay.
He
You're gonna go to
he
Mary Faison.
surprised me last season. I think he's primed to have a fantastic season. He surprised me even in the playoffs. So I think he's
I
primed.
can
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
can agree with that. No, I can agree with that.
And the next pick, Sean Dursey, formerly from the RIP Arizona Coyotes. If you are an
Yeah.
Arizona Coyotes fan, please accept my condolences. RIP. Drop
Don't
in
accept
chat.
mine. You're in the desert. You shouldn't have had hockey out there. Don't accept mine.
I don't share that. I don't share that viewpoint. But I think he's gonna also have
That's
a
fine.
pretty good season. New city, new fan base,
New
um,
ownership. Who's
new
actually
ownership,
willing to put real money into that club?
new ownership. They got a couple additions. I think he's gonna do really well.
Mhm.
I think he's gonna do really well.
I think that whole team, every player on that team is going to do considerably better than what they did in Arizona. I just
Next,
don't think Arizona deserved a hockey team, honestly.
next is the oh wow, we're just gonna blow right past that. Next is going to be the Pacific Division. I think you're gonna be surprised with my picks. I'm gonna let you go first though. You're gonna be surprised with mine.
I have one that'll surprise you, but one of them is going to be Macklin Celebrini for San Jose. Coming into the NHL, make your presence known. Make your presence known.
Okay.
That's my number one. My number two, Oliver Bjorkstrand for Seattle. I think he's a terrific player, and I think he's going to do so much
Oliver
better this year.
Oliver Oliver Bjorkstrand.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, man, I remember watching him in Columbus. Remember you and I had a discussion about
So
how I
good.
wanted how I wanted the Edmonton Oilers to trade for him at one point.
Yep.
He's such a
Yep.
good player. Okay,
Yep.
so the two players that I'm picking are, believe it or not, division rivals.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna pick a player to have a breakout season from my divisional rival. Uh, I can't say his last name. Igor Sheragana or Sheraganovich. Sheraganovich. Yeah,
Shrangovich?
Sher, Sher, Sharangovich.
Sharangovich?
Forgive me if I'm
I,
saying that wrong, but I think
you're
he's
from Russia, buddy. I'm sorry, we're not.
I think he's gonna have a pretty good season. Last season he had 68 goals, or sorry, 68 games played, 28 goals, 22 assists for 50 points. He
Mhm.
came from New Jersey. He had some pretty good offense in New Jersey, and now in Calgary they don't really have much offense. So I think he's gonna have a lot more of an opportunity to really break out and showcase that he is good. Um, they had him in a bottom six role, which was terrible. So they need to put him in a much bigger role here in Calgary, and I think he's going to be good. He is a pretty good.
Sharangovich.
Yeah, sure, sure,
That's a rough one.
Sharangovich. That's tough. I don't know how
It's
commentators
a
are going to
tough
say
one.
that. I'm
I
gonna
have
have
no
to
idea.
watch. I'm gonna have to watch. The next one I have is no question in my mind is going to have a absolute breakout season. Jeff Skinner. Jeff Skinner playing with Leon Draisaitl. The man is going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a pure sniper. He fell out of favor with the Buffalo Sabres for whatever reason, even though he was still putting up massive points. He signed a massive deal in Carolina all those years ago and then was shipped out. And ever since then, nobody kind of really recognized Jeff Skinner, right? So
Right.
I think this season with the Edmonton Oilers, he's going to be my breakout player. He is going to absolutely tear it up this season. And you know what? I would love to see a player hit 72 goals in a season because it's only ever been done once. Not saying Jeff Skinner is Wayne Gretzky, but how cool would that be?
It'd be cool. I just don't.
Solani did it, right? No, Solani scored 72 goals. Am I thinking
I
Solani?
don't see. I don't see that happening
Oh no,
personally.
it's not gonna happen. But I mean, I can dream. I can dream.
Hey, you
Um,
are the dreamer.
and also I did have a dark horse on that list uh,
Hmm.
from last season, and I wanted to put it because he was gonna be on my list, and I just couldn't figure out if I was gonna put him at one or two. So I put him as like a 2B option. I really
Okay.
do like Lucas Raymond. I really do like Lucas Raymond from the Detroit Red Wings. I think he's a great player. He's a player that I think could potentially have a statistically better season this year. Last year he had 57 points in 68 games played. And Dylan Larkin was injured for the majority of that season, so he didn't really
Yeah.
have Larkin to help him out. So Larkin's going to be healthy this season. So I think Detroit might actually make the playoffs now that they have a healthy Dylan Larkin playing. So we'll see what happens. All right, last but not least is our Four Nations Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not heard about the Four Nations Cup, it is exciting. It is exciting, exciting. It is going to be featuring the Canadians, the Americans, the Finnish, and the Swedish teams. So Team Canada has set out 6 players to be on their roster. Finland has set out 6 players to be on their roster. Sweden has 6 players. The United States has 6 players. And don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just going to be 6 on 6. There's going to be more players that fill out as the season goes. But Reid, take us away. What team are we looking at first, and what do we
So these are
expect?
their. So these are their initial rosters. Like you said, they're going to end up filling out.
Right.
So for Team Canada, they have uh 5 forwards and 1 defenseman so far announced.
Okay.
The defenseman is Cal McCarr
Good choice.
with forward Sidney Crosby, forward Nathan McKinnon, forward Brad Marchand, forward Connor McDavid, and forward Braden Point. Now, you've noticed that there is currently no goaltender on that roster.
Yeah.
Uh, there isn't a whole lot of, I would say, like star goalies. I would say that Darcy Kemper, Marc Andre Fleury, and Stewart Skinner are probably your best bets of being could be chosen. Obviously, they're not going to choose all three, but could be chosen.
I
I
heard
don't think
rumors.
Marc-Andre Fleury
I
would
heard
be
rumors
chosen.
that Aiden Hill was on there.
Aiden Hill is also on there as well.
Okay.
And Tristan Jarry, Cam Talbot. There are some decent goalies that come out of Canada. It just seems like Canada is not very well known for putting out goalies. They're more known for putting out position players.
Which is
Just,
interesting to me because it's hard to say that now. Because remember
yeah,
when Canada had Patrick Waugh,
yeah,
Martin Brodeur,
yeah.
like
They were they
Ed
were they were a
Ed
goalie
Belf
machine.
no, not Ed Belfour. I was thinking somebody else. Curtis Joseph,
Yep,
Marc Andre Fleury. Did I say Roberto Luongo? I did. Like we had, you remember the Olympics
everybody.
roster? We had the best goaltending. So
Yep.
for us to not have that quality goaltending,
There's really not anybody active that I would put as top of the peak for Canada and goaltending. For Finland, they have announced two defensemen, three forwards, and a goalie. They have the goalie is UC Saros. They have Miro Heiskanen, Esa Lindell, Sebastian Aho from Carolina, Alexander Barkov, and Mikko Rantanen. The reason why Sebastian Aho I said from Carolina is, as you know, there is two Sebastian Ahos in the league. So
yeah, um, that's a pretty solid
uh,
roster.
yeah,
The
I
starting
like that
six, I should
roster a
say.
lot, actually. I really do like that roster a lot. That roster is, I think, very capable of going far.
Okay.
Um, Other notable goalies that could be on that team, we have Antti Ranta and Kevin Lankinen and Luukkonen are all notable goaltenders that could
I
fill out
could
that second
I could
spot.
see Antti Ranta being there.
Yep,
I could see that.
I like Antti Ranta a lot. Um, Sweden has released three defensemen and three forwards. They do not currently have any goalies that they have listed, but they have Gustav Forsling for Florida, Victor Hedman for Tampa Bay, Eric Carlson for Pittsburgh, which is still wild to say, Philip Forsberg for Nashville, while William Nylander for Toronto, and Mika Zibanejad, which I did not know was Swedish. Current active goalies, they have Jacob Markstrom, Linus Olmark, and Anton Forsberg, Philip Gustafson, to name a couple of the, I would say, more active, or active, more up there in who you would choose for this. I would probably put Linus Olmark and Jacob Markstrom as the one and two.
Dark horse, Sebastian Casa.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Dark horse there. Okay. And United States. Who do
Yeah.
they have?
So listen to this roster. I understand we're both American citizens and kind of have to. I mean, you obviously are also a Canadian citizen and you are an Edmonton fan, but the American in you's got to be a little bit appreciative of this roster, man.
Yeah, it's a pretty
This
good
roster is
roster.
stacked.
It's a pretty good roster, I think.
So for America, they have three defensemen and three forwards also announced. They have Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes, Charlie McAvoy, Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews, and Matthew Tkachuk is their announced players. Now for goaltending, and this is again is just a mind-blowing list. You have Jonathan Quick, who I don't think would make it due to his age, and I think he's on his way out. But you have Connor Hellebuyck, Thatcher Demko, Jake Ottinger, Jack Campbell, Casey DeSmith, Jeremy Swayman, Charlie Lick. Like the the
Ottinger's got to
list,
be a lock.
yeah, I would say probably Ottinger and Hellebuck. If Swayman doesn't get it, it would be I
So,
think
like,
Swayman is a lock as well, just based off of his save percentage is 919. pretty good. It's
Could
pretty
you
good.
could you imagine what the rest of the teams are gonna have to deal with if they can't beat Otten, or if they find a way to beat Ottinger, or sorry, let me start that again. If they find a way to beat Connor Hellebuck, they have Ottinger waiting in the wings, and if they find a way to beat him,
Eh,
they could have Swayman in the wings.
yeah, believe it or not, Ottinger actually is fourth on save percentage on that list. You have on that list, you have Jeremy Swayman as first at 919, Connor Hellebuck as second at 917, Anthony Stallars at 915, and Jake Ottinger at 913.
Oh man. Okay. So now with all four of these rosters, I have a trick question for you and for those who want to comment later on.
Okay.
You have to go through every one of these teams and you have to pick one player that was initially announced. Who would you replace and who would you replace them with?
Um,
If you can't pick who you would replace them with, that's fine, but who would you take out?
Lindell.
Okay, so I
I don't know who I would replace him. He's for the Finnish team. I don't know who I'd replace him with.
Ekblad.
Yeah, actually, Ekblad is probably exactly who I'd put in
Sorry,
there.
no, Ekblad is Swedish.
Is he?
Ekblad is Swedish. I would take out um Gustav Forsling and put in Ekblad or Ekholm for Sweden. For
Um,
Finland, for Esselund, I would take out Essa Lindell.
that's who I would take out. And then Heiskanen's already there.
I have to.
I would put Ollie Mata in there,
I don't know. Essa Lindell is kind of better than Olli Mata though.
but barely, barely.
For Canada, I'm taking out Brad Marchand.
That's kind of wild. I like having the rat on that team.
I would take him out.
Who are you replacing him with? See, that's there's your problem. Is
O'Reilly.
it's hard. Morgan O'Reilly, really?
Not
Okay.
no, not the defenseman.
Oh,
The center.
uh, yeah, yeah.
The center.
Okay.
I think if you had your top, think about this. Your center is Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, O'Reilly. That's your center. You could put
Yeah.
anybody on those wings and you're scoring a plethora of goals, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Uh,
but do you think they're outscoring the US?
it depends on their defenseman because Cal McCarr is a pretty good defenseman. I
Was
think
that
I,
Austin Quinn Hughes though?
I know, but it all depends on who they're going to add for defenseman for Canada, right?
Yeah.
Right, because Canada does have some pretty solid defenders here. Let me look this up right now. Canada does have some pretty solid defenders. Um,
And don't anybody watching, please do not confuse this. These are initial, like we have stated, that these rosters will get filled out. So if there is somebody that we are missing, they will probably be included. The teams obviously are not only going to be six players. So
yeah, I mean, think about it. Look, so oh my goodness, Aaron Ekblad, he's Canadian,
yeah.
so I would definitely put Aaron Ekblad there. So you have okay, look, so you have Cal McCarr. I don't think Brent Burns is going. Drew Doughty is not going to go. Pietrangelo might be, maybe, but you have Dougie Hamilton, phenomenal defenseman. I would definitely put him there. Aaron Ekblad, Josh Morrissey, Shea Theodore. Like there's a lot. Colton Parayko, Brandon
Sean
Montour,
Morrissey. Sean Morrissey, I like a lot.
right? So there's a lot of good defensemen. I think um Canada could potentially outscore their problems because think about the forwards, man. Like the Oil or not the Oilers, man. I want to think the Oilers, but Canada. Think about the forwards that they have available to them.
Mhm.
Stamkos is there. Claude Giroux is there. Jamie Benn is there. Nathan
It
McKinnon.
kinda
So
does it kind of blow your mind that Connor McDavid does not make this team or is not on the initial release?
for which team?
Or Connor Bedard?
No. I don't think he's proved himself enough.
Okay,
He's
fair
only had
enough.
one season, right? Uh,
Yeah,
because think about it. If I had a choice between Connor Bedard and
he doesn't have to be a
Steven
center.
Stamkos, right? I mean,
Yeah, I'm probably the same
if they
person.
want the young blood in there, I mean, I would put Boone Jenner and Zach Hyman before Connor Bedard.
Oh, Boone's old,
How old is he?
old, old.
Oh, well, my point is, give Connor Bedard one more season, and then maybe, and
Okay.
then maybe. But I think Canada could outscore their problems. That's going to be a good tournament.
Oh yeah.
When is that tournament? Do you remember? It was
I actually do not remember.
the Four Nations. We played in accordance. I think it's next season, right?
Yeah, it's for
Yeah,
2025.
February 12th to the 20th in 2025. Yeah, so that's going to be a really good. Um, it's going to be really good to watch that.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I agree. I'm
I
excited for it.
I might have to take a trip. Where is this? This is in Montreal. I might have to make a trip up to Montreal.
Going back home, huh?
Well, I mean, Canada's a great place. Montreal's a beautiful city. All right. So I guess that's the end of our show. We've gone over the awards finalists, the breakout players, and the Four Nations Cup. Let us know what you guys think. Reid, any last words?
Yes, please. If you have anything that you would like us to talk about in an upcoming video, please comment it if we like it and we'll want to put it into a video. We will pin your comment. This is Reid and Sam signing off. Please stay frosty.